Sam, you're here next.
I'm always here, yeah.
For property.
Yeah.
Put me down as a no-show,
Okay.
and if I show up, I show up. After you meet them, I'll get the hip on Wednesday. But I don't know what that means yet.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna be a quarter-inch taller, what's that?
I would guess, right. Outpatient, 45 minutes to do the surgery,
You're not gonna,
$76,000. That's all.
but you're not gonna know how good you used to feel.
I guess.
Yeah, I heard that used to feel, good, but that happened.
You're gonna be like, wow, I should have done this a long time. That's good.
And it looks like we're good to go.
All this gone.
It looks like it's 8:30, so I'll call the meeting to order. Sir. No, you're okay to talk, Paul. You gotta tell me if we certified that the open meetings laws have been met?
Yes, they are.
Looking at the agenda, looking for a motion for adoption.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions, comments, adjustments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Minutes from last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second. Third.
Any questions, comments? Anybody catch anything that they didn't like? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Okay, we entered into the public comment period. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person or call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the direction of the committee/board chair after advisement by the committee or board. Anybody here for public comment?
Did I see?
Seeing none at this point, we'll leave it open. If somebody does call in, we can go back. County sales tax update.
Okay, our April collection was $174,112.02, which is a little bit lower than last year, but higher than the year before. So we're kind of right in the middle there right now at $342,713.63 for the year. 2.3 million.
No, for like this, or year-to-date, I should say.
Yeah, it's the last column, 342, 713.
Oh, that's what we're supposed to be.
Well, no, that's what we are. That's adding those two, because we've only got 2 months so far. So I don't take the
You don't
2.3 and divide it by 12. No, I have never done that because we got so much up and downs. I kind of just used the comparisons of last year and the year before. We're higher than the year before, but lower than last year.
And we have that 491 from last year we can keep.
Yeah, that went
With,
to the general fund.
yeah, that's nice.
Okay, any other questions about it? General fund update.
Okay, the only change is the action that was taken at the April meeting with the new custodian position of 22,000. So we are at $2,996,244.16.
Any questions on general fund?
That's it for the general fund. Now, it's suggesting that maybe, because I see Olivia on there right now, that maybe if you wanted to take number 11 and move up, since they got knocked out last month.
Well,
FEMA, I'm sorry, 12, number 12. Yep.
Fine with me.
do we?
Olivia, are you there?
Anybody disagree with making that change after we've approved the agenda as is?
You as a chair can do that.
I can't. I did it.
Okay.
Aye.
I don't know. Olivia, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I can. I'm sorry, I was just muted.
Oh, okay, okay. And I see a Kayla, is she with you too?
Carly? No, I don't. No, Carly's not with us.
Oh,
No, I'm not
okay.
in the eyeglass group.
But I think Lauren and Chelsea are on. They've dialed in, I think.
Yeah, we're on the line.
Okay. You got them all on then?
Okay. I think you're probably the one to start asking the
Well,
questions. You're
I
probably
can
more
start and
familiar.
probably John can jump in, but the one thing that we were concerned about was so many of the items that we had submitted were then denied by FEMA. And I think probably it was Megan sent me this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but sent me this list of like 230-some thousand. Everything red here, you said was denied by FEMA, and that's kind of what the question is, why, or what the deal was with why they were denied. And I don't know if you've got one of these. Can you see this, Olivia? I mean, you
Yes,
probably
sir.
can't read it, but I mean,
Yes, sir, we have that. We have a copy of that as well. Lauren may be able to help me with this because she's done a lot of other clients as well. The particular issue is that there was not consistent obligations for COVID stuff across the nation. We really don't know. They really don't have to explain to us. We could have appealed some of those. Unfortunately, when the conversation with Megan, and I don't presume to know what that conversation particularly looked like if she told you about being able to go back and fight some of those. But we have absolutely no control over what FEMA deems eligible or ineligible. And some of those things that were marked red for you guys probably were funded in other areas, and we probably should have been able to go back and do that. But when the agreement came, the email that we have says that you guys were okay with those deductions, and that you weren't going to fight them. And so I'm assuming that's why Megan didn't move forward with that. Lauren, can you speak to that anymore? Anything you can add to that?
That's, again, with Megan going to a different job, we kind of picked this up at the end of it. So we had to piece it together from previous emails and from what FEMA sent in. But yeah, just to echo Olivia, the eligibility hasn't been consistent through FEMA for what they are allowing or disallowing. Different regions are pushing things through, and other regions we're seeing get scrutinized very, very heavily, specifically Florida. But yeah, at this point, and I think I conveyed this to Paul already, but at this point, we're past the point of having the option to appeal because of the time frame. But their justification was, it said ineligible material costs identified were $239, $127.32, which included, and then they listed the UVC fingerprint robot, telework technology, electronic documentation conversion, contact tracing supplies and equipment, phone bills, tax announcements, disposable food containers, utensils, UV light sanitizer box. And I can send this. I've already sent this to Paul, but I can send it so that everybody else can see it because I know it's a lot. But it says, per policy, all other ineligible items are considered increased operating costs and not covered under the FEMA Papa G Category B emergency protective measures. So that's their reasoning, they considered it increased operating costs. I do agree with Olivia that some of it probably could have been appealed, but not the majority of it, I would think. But also, it looked to me like in the conversation that you guys just wanted to move forward.
I don't recall that part of it ever happening because we were a little disgusted with everything turned on. And one thing I noticed is it says that our courthouse was closed, and the courthouse never did close. We never did close during the whole pandemic. So I was thinking, well, maybe they figured because we're closed, we don't need these items. like sanitizer and all that stuff we had to have. And we wouldn't have had to have it if it wasn't for the pandemic.
I totally agree, and we're seeing this consistent with a lot of applicants. I mean, they're telling us at hospitals PPE masks were increased operating costs. And we all know that before 2020, nobody wore a mask except for a surgeon. So it's not a fight that we can fight. That's something that FEMA is going to have to change in their standards and in their review.
I have a question for you. I keep hearing that there's tons of money out there that's been set aside for COVID. Did FEMA not get that money? Or don't you know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
I do know what you're asking. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lauren. Go ahead.
We're having the same conversation within our office and with our team because we're having so many issues with the COVID funding projects going through. I mentioned earlier that we're seeing inconsistencies, and a lot of those inconsistencies that we're seeing here are with states that have other disasters that they're working on. For example, Florida. They have hurricane disasters every year, so those FEMA projects are being scrutinized much more than like projects we have in Ohio and in Wisconsin and Montana and other areas. So I'm assuming, this is an assumption, I'm not saying that this is what's happening, but I'm assuming personally that the funding is being split between. And so maybe there isn't as much for COVID as originally was set aside. But again, that's just me making an assumption.
I think the other part of the unspoken consequence, or whatever you want to call it, is the fact that they came out with so much CARES and ARPA money that they just gave out. And so they are using, and I don't think that they're coming clean and saying that, but they're using that as justification for probably not funding some of that stuff. Like I said, they have not come out and said that. There's no policy update that states that. Just based on some of the things that they are denying, that ARPA money or CARES money would have been available to pay for, but they were not clear about that in the beginning or upfront with that. And so they put a lot of applicants in a precarious situation where they use their ARPA money for other things because of the availability of potential FEMA money. And then after the fact, they've come back and deobligated or found ineligible so many things that they originally said should be eligible. And so unfortunately for us, we submit the documentation, we submit everything to FEMA, they make a determination. We can argue that, we could have argued that some of those things would have been, we could have argued that some of those things should have been eligible and maybe got, some more, couple $1,000s back for you guys. But as far as making that, I can't even guarantee that would have happened. And FEMA just makes they make whatever rules they want. They can just make a determination and say it was increased operating funds, and you can argue that it's not. But like Lauren said, if they're going to call a mask increased operating cost, how do you fight that when they specifically said in things that would be eligible would be PPE? So they are not even following their own policy. It's an issue at FEMA that we've brought to Region 4 and other regions. We've gone to leadership at FEMA with these issues, trying to explain that their policy says it's eligible, and then after the fact they're calling it increased operating funds. There's only so much we can argue with them about. I mean, at the end of the day, they hold the purse funds, and they can say, well, I really don't care that you call it PPE, we call it increased operating, because after 9 months, it should have been put into your budget. That's their argument, right? Like, we paid for it for X amount of weeks, months, but at some point you should have folded that PPE into your budget. And assumed that it would be something that would be reoccurring. And it's incredibly difficult to argue that with them.
Lauren, I got one more question too, in regards to the administration. I think you called it a category Z or something like that. And that is being processed, correct?
I will follow up with our accounts payable and find out. Again, not having worked on this project, I'm just picking it up from these emails, so I'll find out about the Cat Z.
But
Okay,
yes, sir,
'cause-
Paul, but the short part of that is, yes, sir, it is being developed. They write it 5% based off of what you were obligated. So they will write a secondary project for 5% of your total obligated funds. It will be funded 100% by FEMA, and it will go directly to you guys.
What does that mean, 5%?
So the 5% is what this is what the bill that you sent us was?
That's correct.
Okay, so we should be looking for getting that whole amount back.
Correct.
Okay, like I was just thinking that maybe because we didn't get some of our reimbursements on the other things, that they would prorate the reimbursement for administration.
So they will, it will be, because it will be, it's calculated on what's obligated, not what was submitted. So if we submitted $10 million and they obligated 1 million, your 5% would be written on the 1 million, not the 10 million that we submitted.
So what is that?
But your bill should be covered with that.
Yeah.
We'll submit our timesheets and that invoice to FEMA, and then you will be able to recoup your funds.
So we're gonna get 12,000 out.
So if we only got, I'm gonna just use rough figures, if we got 250,000 back under the 600 and some thousand that we submitted, we'll just get 5% back on that 250,000?
Yes, sir.
So that's $12,000.
And we paid 90.
Yep.
Can we take the ARPA funds and put back in our general fund for the general fund money we took to buy all this other stuff? You know, all that red line stuff?
We can do that, because we're under the $10 million threshold. We can do whatever we want with that money.
'Cause basically, that's just a loss.
So I probably should go backwards and figure everything that we did not get reimbursed for and submit that for our ARPA money. I can do that.
Means get more ARPA money?
No.
We won't get any
It's
more
the ones
ARPA
that
money,
we
but we can use that rather than throwing it at these other projects, put it back in our funds where it came from in the first place.
Since we designated money out of our general fund to fund these things that were turned into FEMA, and we're hoping that we can at least get our general fund back to where it used to be.
Okay.
I think that would probably be a good idea for you to put that together for us to look at,
Okay.
to see where we want to go
I
with
can do
that.
that.
That would kind of go counter to our, what's the word I'm looking for? That
Yeah,
we
good
weren't
job
going to
for
spend
Sam.
any more of that until we got done with the courthouse or the justice center. But
Right, right.
I think it'd be a good idea to put it together for us to look at anyway.
And Lauren, I probably will talk to you again about the administration part, so that I do have a good understanding of that, because I think we paid you almost 90,000. And if all these ineligible costs were deducted and all that, we won't be getting more than 12,000, I think Dave figured, $12,000 back out of that even, so. Okay.
Okay, and I'll also look at the contract and see how that was built. We do have, I'm not sure what the contract said, or if there was a not to exceed or anything like that. So I'll try to get that from accounts payable as well.
Okay.
I know, she kind of assured us that we were gonna get that, at least that portion back that we paid directly to Integrity. It was supposed to come back.
Yeah, so that was an assumption that we were gonna get all of the money back that we.
Yeah.
All this
we
stuff was
requested.
basically an assumption.
Right.
So the ROI on this did not turn out the way it was presented.
Right.
Okay, I don't have anything more.
Anybody have anything more? Paul, you're going to have some further discussions with them about this.
Yep, I will.
And probably get back to us with any results or lack thereof.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
If nobody has anything else, thank you for your time,
Yeah, thank you for your time today. That's helpful.
and apologize for last month.
Did you hear Dave apologized for last month? I'll be in touch with you, Lauren, okay?
Okay, thanks.
You betcha.
Okay, now, where are we? Go
Eight
back up.
department
Yep,
reports.
go up to department reports and requests.
Lord.
And the county treasurer has something for us.
You should have all received my report with your agenda. Interest rates are still up, so we're gaining money on the investments we have. And last year, we've earned $191,000 more than last year at this time in interest income. And have $8.5 million more invested at this time. And
Is that like Justice Center money sitting there? Is that where that extra comes from? or
no, that's not included in those totals at all. I don't include those in the county,
Okay.
because that's, money has to be used for that project.
Okay.
And I've already met my budget in interest income, so that's good. So everything, that I gain the rest of the year will go towards the general fund.
That's good.
Tax delinquencies have not jumped. I mean, they're a little below where we were last year at this time, which is a little surprising. I thought they would have jumped this year, but
Lori, on the 8.5 million more invested, can you give us kind of a breakdown of where that came from, the addition?
well, some is the ARPA funds, and then we got those opioid settlement payment,
Yep.
and then the LATCF money.
Okay.
And then, I just think we have extra money right now.
Well, we shouldn't say that.
But, it could just be timing
Yes.
on when we pay things out, so.
Right.
Right.
Or if more people paid their first and, their whole tax bill in January, where they usually split it January, July, that could be why we have extra money. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to look at the numbers, but those are things of why it could be more. But yeah, at this time, we only had half of the ARPA money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other half would come in June last year.
Could some of it have been when we got the funds for the loans, the bonds?
Do you remember when we got the money last year in '22 for the,
But I don't include that in here. That's, well,
it's an investment, you put
Okay,
it in there.
yeah.
And then
Because
when,
we get the money, right, and then we put it somewhere, and then we
She
pay it as
invests
we
it.
go.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
right.
And Lori did send out an email to Highway and Sheriff
Sheriff, yeah.
to get kind of a cash flow, so she knew when bills were gonna be coming and all that. And so she keeps good track of the money.
Oh, that's all good. Yeah.
And what was the one we just signed last week? The interest was up to, remember that one I had to sign?
Oh,
that
a
loan?
CD
A
I got
CD?
for 4.75, yeah, for 14 months. The banks are good to us. If I talk to them and try to get more, they usually are good.
That's good. I've seen some as high as 6 already out there, so.
Oh, wow.
they're-
I haven't
they're
seen
con-
that.
They're continuing to go up, so
Yeah.
just keep your ears open.
Yeah, I
That's-
haven't seen that at
Well,
all.
they're not local banks, so.
But I do some through PMA. They get bids throughout the United States for me, and I have not seen anything even near that. A little over 5 with them, but
Yeah. It's coming. Keep your ears open.
any other questions?
Anybody? Okay, thank you. And then we have the register of deeds, Rose, up next.
Okay, I gave everybody a packet, and I was kind of focusing on the vital records portion of the office this time. In the cover letter, it tells you that it's with the real ID, driver's license and the real ID card. A lot of those documents have to come from our office. They're looking for certified birth certificates and government-issued marriage certificates, sometimes military discharge papers. All of it has to be issued by the government now. They don't accept some of the documents that they used to accept, like from the hospitals, and I've attached some of those just for your reference so that you can see what I'm talking about. It's confusing for individuals because they'll say it has to have a seal, and a lot of those hospital certificates have a seal, like one of those gold seals, so it's confusing for individuals. So when they go to the DMV, they send them to our office because it's statewide issuance now, so no matter where they're born, within the state, we can issue them from our office. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays when the DMV is open is usually when we're pretty busy. I also attached how the fees are split, the vital record fees are split. $7 of every $20 for the birth certificate goes to the Child's Trust Fund. And if you ever see those flyers where there's like the shaken baby syndrome or anything with handouts like that, the funds come from that. And then the state always gets the larger portion. They get $8 and the county general fund gets $5. And then for marriage, death, divorce, and domestic partnerships, the state gets $13 and the county gets $7. One of the reasons why the state is getting so much more of a percentage is because they're updating these databases just so that it can be statewide issuance. The next thing they're going to be working on is the divorce records. Right now, I think it's like 2015 to current we can issue, but now they're going to go back for the divorce certificates also, because that's something that they need for the real ID and the real driver's license and for the ID card. So they're working on that. So that's why they get the larger portion. And then I have attached how many documents we collected for the year and how much the vital records issued in 2022. Any additional birth, death, or marriage is $3, and that goes directly to the county revenue. So that's why the birth, when it says additional, there isn't a split. The county gets everything. So the total with all of the amounts to all of the departments, the county received $11,828 last year.
Rose, what's the difference between the additional and the regular?
Well, if they buy at the same time, they can buy they're the same document.
Okay.
It's just that
They want more of the original
Right.
for their own purposes.
Correct.
Got it.
I can throw one thing in. When we do marriage applications, we tell the applicants that, after they're married, they have to get the certificates from the Register of Deeds. We always tell them to buy a whole bunch at the same time, because you come in, you buy one for $20, but you can get additional for $3 a piece at the same time. If you buy one today for $20, you come back tomorrow and need another one, it's $20 again.
Yep.
So
And
we
one
always
thing-
tell them to buy additional, because you need it for your driver's license change. You need it for health insurance changes if you go on.
Social Security.
Things like that, so.
Death certificates.
We usually have them get
Every
about
life
at least
insurance
3 for
policy
sure.
requires
Yep.
a certified copy.
Yep.
Do you tell them 5? Good, yeah. Hey,
And and the county
5
clerk's
for
office is
50,
really
rather
good
than-
about handing out the applications so that when they come in, sometimes they're ready for all of that, so,
yeah, we hand out that application, yeah.
yep. So the Real ID, that date, it started in 2005 when they passed that act, and then it was 5 years they gave everybody to get the Real ID, but they keep changing that. It was going to be on Wednesday of this year, of this month, but now it's going to be in 2025, in May. So the date keeps changing, giving people more time.
So what do we do with the Real ID? I mean,
What it is, it's, you can get into federal buildings, some federal buildings, it helps you with, like, if you're traveling. It has that star on there.
no, I understand that on your driver's license, but how does the county, what do we play?
We just supply the
records?
certificate, yep, the records for them, so that they can get it. If they don't have those records, they aren't gonna be able to get that.
And that's them as the individual
Correct.
requesting the Real ID?
The citizens, yep. The citizens have to come into our office, get the birth, death, and whatever else they need. A lot of times they need the divorce certificates. They get those documents from the county, and then that's taken to the DMV.
I don't remember doing that when I went to the DMV. I mean, I have the star on mine. I don't
Did you
remember.
take your birth certificate?
I must have.
And then, and probably something to identify your social security? You know, like your W-2s or anything, if you have to take that in.
Okay.
And it seems you find that some individuals at the DMV have trouble in some cities. It's just not consistent either. So maybe you got lucky and they didn't ask for it.
Well, I actually think I had it, well, this was a long time ago.
Correct.
You know, when I came from another state, and I already had it in that state, and so they just issued it here. I don't think I had to do anything extra here.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the DMV rules are,
That's
but,
interesting.
yeah.
I think you even have to bring in a couple of bills to prove that you live at this address.
I
Yep.
was gonna say, I just did mine a couple of years ago in renewal. I had to have a birth certificate, social security card, and a couple of items of bills type thing to prove my address.
Correct.
So are we seeing a little bit of an increase for those types of documents because of that, or?
Yes, the date was May 3rd of 2023, so a lot of those people are already in, but they extended it to 2025. So it's slowing down a bit, but we were really busy at one time.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Hearing none?
Okay, perfect,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Rose.
Department overruns. Was there anything other than the carryover from last month, or is that what we're talking about?
It has changed a bit, but not a lot. Carol was hoping they'd get more revenues in, but they didn't. So the
Okay, it's something here. Okay, now we're looking for a motion. That's kind of where I was,
Motion to go through the department overruns.
second?
Second.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
no,
Nope.
don't vote yet, no.
Don't vote. I thought, well, why not?
Oh, okay, then we're done.
So now we're open for discussion, right?
Yeah, for the sake of discussion.
Did you hand out these?
I didn't have that by that time.
Oh, that's right, because we
We haven't
waited right
seen
up. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'll read it, unless you want to read it.
Go ahead.
Whereas the expenditure of funds exceeding those provided in the budgeting process or by resolution of the county board is contrary to Wisconsin statute 59.23, parentheses 2, parentheses C, and 66.0607, parentheses 7, and whereas various departments have reviewed 2022 appropriations, expenditures, and possible overdrafts in their respective accounts, and whereas the following departments that should be were presented to the Executive Finance Committee showing deficits in their accounts for 2022. Now be it resolved that the 2022 budget is amended with the funds transferred from the county unassigned general fund 101.32100 to the following accounts in the amount as noted in the table below. And it's the county clerk accounting auditing, $18,078, county clerk elections, $9,427.30, human resources, health insurance deductible, $8,766.33, and sheriff administration, $67,853.26, for a total of 0204, 80203.
So this was the one that, at the, was it the last meeting we had?
Yes, last meeting we
And-
had.
And I said, let's shore this up a bit. We put more of the details of what it was we
Yep.
were over on, and not just the department, but what it was that caused us to be over. The administration on the sheriff, 68,000, what was that? Do we know any more details on
Reduced revenues was part of it. And it was in their administration, because their administration was actually 103,000 over. But is other, like jail and dispatch, highway safety, support services, security, that's the one that I missed, was security at the front door, brought it all down to 67,000.
that? 'Cause you think
And we're waiting for, because we even got more revenues in later, so that number went down.
But he was hoping that that was gonna offset all of that.
Right,
And
right.
get it back to about zero. He's still 67.
Right.
He's still short a
And,
lot.
and in most, and we went over that with Brett also, and it turns out that in most cases, it was not getting the revenues that they had anticipated.
My understanding that the revenues
It
didn't
wasn't
show up
really
like they
an
were
overage of
projected.
expenses overall.
And at this point, those revenues aren't going to come in at all?
They hadn't as of last Friday, because I had Carol check again last Friday, and no more came in. So this is as far down as I could get it.
And all, the total for all of those was?
$104,802.03.
So this is kind of synonymous with the credit card bills here. We have no choice but to pay it, right? That's where we're at.
Well, otherwise they'll just show up on the audit report as
In the hole.
in the hole.
That would not be good.
Yeah, it doesn't look. So this is a resolution that I think last year, oh, I should have brought that with. I think I had it with last month.
More or less?
I think this is less. I wanted to say it was 100 and,
So it's just something we deal with every year then, for sure.
yes, correct.
So basically, we missed our budget for 2022 by whatever the total is.
Oh, and that made me think of something, because you wanted one more item, was also, I went through, Dave had mentioned that he wanted to know about the other departments that weren't over, and so I just wrote them on a piece of paper, but.
That's right, because that would give us a better idea
Yeah,
of
there was-
total where we're at.
It was at least 17 or 18 departments that were under budget, and the total on that, sorry, I should have brought that, was like $504,000 or $540,000.
That makes it feel a little bit better.
Yeah, so there's-
If we're off in these departments by $104,802, we were to the good with the others,
540.
500, so the difference is 400,000. We're still, as a county.
We
we're-
came out
we're-
ahead, I
Came out
suppose.
ahead.
Yeah.
That's what we should
And
put
you
that in
said
there
that, and I
because
just thought of it
that will,
now.
that will feel a whole lot better to the rest of the, our partners on the full board that
If
we're
we-
still in okay position.
Okay, and we can announce that at the meeting, I suppose.
I guess, yeah, rather than change
the
that, we can just.
Because this one does have to get passed now in May.
Right, yep.
Because the auditors come the end of May.
We'll hear the
Yeah.
reading of that.
Yep. We'll read that, and then we can do the other explanation, and I
So
can have a little.
have your note with you at full board when you read this, just here's the announcement to go with it.
Yes, yes.
There isn't a chance of those underruns or credits that they keep them for a contingency fund or something so they don't go back into the general fund, or is there?
The other departments you're talking about,
Yeah,
or
that 400,000 we're talking about, we're actually,
that'll go into the general fund?
for sure, they're not gonna put it in a contingency fund for,
Not unless you guys didn't put anything in
Okay.
contingency this year for
okay,
budget. No, that at budget time, you guys put money in the contingency.
yeah.
Yep.
But I just
So after the audit's done, that's what finalizes where
Yep.
we can put the money then from leftover from last year?
Yep. Well, it'll all go into the general fund is where it will go, and then you guys will allocate it after. That's kind of what,
Do we have to allocate it?
well, you've
Can we
been,
allocate it to the general fund?
no, that's where it goes. That's where it automatically goes.
It'll probably be allocated out next budget.
And that's like,
Next year.
on your general fund update,
We wouldn't allocate money to a department that didn't need it though, right?
No, not
No.
at this time, but it'll
No.
be in the general fund for allocation for next year.
Not back to that specific one,
Yeah,
but,
And it could help us in our budgeting in
Right.
this fall.
Yeah, well, we're gonna need it.
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Any other questions about it? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
sign first, and I'll pass it
On
on.
to
I have a
full
question,
board.
why couldn't I sit there?
Next item says a spyglass program with Tim. What do we got up?
Yeah, she said she was,
Carly's here.
Here, okay.
we thought she was part of integrity.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, I did think she was part of integrity.
So, some of you are on property committee. Carly spoke to the property committee and they approved having her speak to executive finance since ultimately the decision is yours. I believe it was a recommendation that exec finance take whatever action they deem necessary. Carly, go ahead and explain.
Sure, I'll share my screen so you folks have just a visual to follow, but appreciate you having me today. So Tim and I have been in conversations about my company Spyglass for quite a few months now. Just to give you a general overview, we are a telecom expense management firm. So we run a contingent-based bill review over our clients' recurring communication spending. The main areas that we focus on are any of the county's voice services, internet, data, and then mobile expenses as well, so any cell phones, hotspots, or tablets. In a nutshell, we look for billing errors. So we can first go back into the inception of your current contracts, recover where these phone providers have maybe overbilled you inappropriately in the past, and then also use our database and some benchmarking tools to actually work to reduce your current monthly spend moving forward. Definitely important to note who we're not as well. So we're not a telecom provider ourselves. We don't sell any phone service or hardware, and we have no affiliation with any of these providers out there. We're simply in business to run this one-time review and hold them accountable. Last big thing to note is we have been in business for 20 years doing this day in and day out. So we do actually house the country's largest database of this middle market recurring tech spend. So with that, we have almost 14,000 clients to compare your rates to. A little bit more recently, since 2021, I've come over 1,800 new reviews. Those reviews alone generated over $70 million in cost savings opportunities for those clients. And then just so you have an idea of our success rates, across the board, we're successful in identifying some sort of cost savings opportunity in 99% of these engagements. So we do run all these reviews upfront at no cost with no obligation to move forward with anything. So with our success-based model, your county will either fall into this 99%, have the opportunity to save some money, but in the off chance you're in that 1%, you at least have the peace of mind knowing you're running efficiently. And again, absolutely no fee associated with us running our review in that case. 60% of the time, that's when we're successful in recouping cost. So that's when we can go back in time, get anything that's already been paid in error to those providers in the form of a refund. And then average monthly spending moving forward across all of our 14,000 clients is a 20% monthly reduction. And then from here, I just want to give you a general overview of our process. So the time that would be involved from you folks, and then how we share any implemented savings. So as far as the process, all we require from our clients are copies of the past 2 months invoices from each of your service providers. From there, we have 2 documents that allow us to perform the rest of the work on your behalf. First one's a letter of agency or an LOA. What that does is allow us to get any other materials we need directly from your providers. So we source some back-end reporting, things that help us build a full review and look for cost savings opportunities in addition to those 2 months of bills, but it ensures that's the only legwork you're putting into it. Second document's our one-page audit agreement. That's a summary of everything I'm taking you through today, allows us to perform a review for the county. If we were to get those three materials from you folks, we have a kickoff call. So that's between me, your project manager, anyone that you folks want involved on your end. It's about a 15 to 20-minute call, just setting clear expectations for the analysis. After we have that kickoff call, we'll completely disappear for 4 weeks and build you our 3 main reports. First report is only going to be focused on recovery, again, going back in time and looking for any refund opportunities. Second report is going to be an inventory report and usage analysis. So this report will be broken down by all of the county's locations, each of your service providers, every circuit, service, and account underneath that. I would say one of the biggest underlying benefits of doing this audit, in addition to cost savings, is just bringing you folks clarity as to where exactly every single penny of this area of the budget's going. So that'll be laid out very clearly through that report. Third and final is an industry benchmark analysis. So showcasing how your costs compared to other cities and counties in the state of Wisconsin, or just folks in your area using those same providers as you. That's how we truly ensure that you're left with the latest discounts and promotions. Once we've done all that work up front, we'll return to you with a summary of findings presentation. So this will lay out each and every cost savings opportunity that we've uncovered. It'll be written out in plain English with dollar amounts attached as the potential of what the county could save. From this point forward, you are completely in the driver's seat. So actually picking and choosing which recommendations you feel work for the county, if any at all. Like I mentioned before, there's no obligation to move forward with anything. And then lastly, we do have a industry benchmark specialist who would just take some time at the end of the engagement to walk you folks through that report in full detail. So upfront at no cost, and you're actually left with all of our reports, even if you don't choose to move forward with any of the recommendations. If you do like one or more of the recommendations that we come back with and actually give us the green light to do this implementation on your behalf, we'll complete all that legwork on your end with the provider as well. And then there are 2 types of ways that we share implemented only savings. So the first one's only going to be associated with recovery. Again, going back in time and getting you any sort of refund. Those refund opportunities are a simple 50-50 split. Any forward-looking recommendation that you elect to move forward with. So just a few examples here. Think about either us getting rid of a dormant line or negotiating a better rate moving forward. This is a 12 times multiplier to the amount that we save the county per month. So the 12 comes from 12 months in 1 year. In other words, the county stays budget neutral year 1, simply redirecting the dollars that would have gone to that phone provider and overcharges to Spyglass. And then in years 2, 3, 4 beyond, you're realizing 100% of those savings. So a little bit more simply put, Spyglass earns the first year savings while you stay budget neutral, not paying a penny more than what you already have planned on paying that provider, and then you start to realize them in the years to come. So that's pretty much all the information I had to share just based on our process, what you would receive, and then implemented savings. So I'll just leave it up to questions at this point.
Any questions?
I got one.
I got lots of them, but I don't know how to even start asking.
Carly, I was on a property committee, so I had a little bit more time to think about it. So on the 12X monthly savings, is that based on actual savings? What happens if that charge doesn't materialize on the future bills?
So that's based off implemented only savings recommendations that you actually give us the green light to implement on your behalf. So one huge thing in that summary findings presentation, our project manager will lay out how you're actually going to realize these savings in the years to come, leaving you fully informed to make that decision. 2 types of ways that can be guaranteed. If it's getting rid of like a tax or a dormant line, you'll actually get verification from your provider that those changes have been made and your bills have been reduced before Spyglass can actually earn our share of that. Same way goes for negotiating you a better rate moving forward. You will again receive verification that your bills have been reduced before we could earn our share. After that, it's all said and done. It's very illegal for the provider to go back and add any of these things back on without your permission.
Right, so that wouldn't be part of the project then if all of a sudden we hadn't been getting charged for something, and all of a sudden we go through the audit and we say, hey, take these off, we get the savings, now we start getting charged other stuff that we never were, that's not part of the program. That would be an additional project then for your team.
So, can you repeat that again? I'm a little confused
Yeah,
on
sorry.
that.
So
No, you're good.
let's say we go through and we choose this company, we're gonna get these savings because they're not, we shouldn't be paying for it. And we do see a reduction in those fees, but automatically the next month, we get other fees that we never were getting. That wouldn't be part of what you're looking for, right?
No, because we can only go based off of when we ran the audit. So if something were to, for some reason, come on that, I guess, was separate from the audit we did, you could always bring us back in to look at it. But no, anything after that engagement, I mean, we can't, I guess, we'd have to come back in to look at it at that point.
Thank you.
I'm totally confused on what is the cost to us to start with that we have to look to recover.
Do you know what our cost will be upfront? Excuse me. You know what our cost will be upfront?
So there's no upfront cost to run the review. We run the whole review at no cost, and then present those findings to you. Those fees, so the 50-50 sharing on recovery and then 12 times multiplier for any forward looking, that's only applicable to recommendations that you actually give us the green light to implement on your behalf. So hypothetically, we could run the review upfront, no cost, and never get paid for anything if you folks don't give us the green light to move forward with any of it.
Seems kind of like a no-brainer then.
May I?
Yes, please.
Carly, if we decided that we wanted you to review all the SIP, analog, landline, internet charges, but not cellular, is that something that's doable in the relationship, or is this all phones? And once the audit's done, whatever we had audited counts?
Sure, so we'll only audit the bills that you provide us. We do have a threshold as to where we find it worthwhile for both parties to engage. So it just depends on how much you're spending in those other areas in addition to the cell phones. I know the cell phones are a pretty big chunk of what you're paying for. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just over $5K a month for that bill alone. We're seeing the value of anyone spending about $3K a month or more. So you would just want to make sure that you're giving us enough billing to exceed that threshold to know that it would be worthwhile and that we could guarantee running a full audit and leaving you with those 3 reports.
Okay. And if the audit identifies underutilized lines, but if we mark those as lines that we expect to be eliminating, would you still get the 12-month savings on that?
No, so anything that you're already working on, we just ask for a heads up on it in the kickoff call. That's where you'll first be introduced to your project manager. So Tim, say you're aware of 10 lines that you're going to be moving away from. They'll just ask for a list of those 10 lines so that they don't make any recommendations or put any time or effort into those 10 lines.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a question for you. When you listed out your list, but pulled cell phones off, was that just for an example, or was there a reason you were separating the two? 2 or 3 or whatever they were?
As much as I'd like for Spyglass to make a little money on this and find us some savings that we can actually get a return on, I'd really prefer that we get 100% of the savings on the low-hanging fruit.
Oh, okay.
So if I know I've got a dozen lines that are going away soon, I'd like to get those taken care of
Okay.
rather than letting Spyglass collect money.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and that's definitely not uncommon. We can, I guess, carve those lines out, no problem.
So, Tim, do we have a list of all of the technologies and invoices we're going to suggest here, and what's the total dollar spend we're looking at that we can maybe, I mean, your time and effort in this is going to be, some, so what's the ROI I'm trying to get to on this?
Well, you're directing at one of the minor players in this. Sitting to your right is someone who needs to have time because he has access to a lot of the bills and phone information from prior years. So our spend, if you include all the cellular phones for county issued outside of the healthcare center, at one point we were at 6,200. We're down in the low 5K, and that number is going down further. We're spending about 32,000 a year on the Zoom platform. We spend, I don't know, $500-600 a month on internet connections. I think it's going to be difficult for Spyglass to find savings on the internet connections, as TCC is very reasonable. But, you know, if you want to open that up for consideration, so you're looking at somewhere around 7,500 to 10 grand, depending on everything we include.
90 to 100 grand total,
Yeah.
on an annualized basis.
Yeah.
So Carly, what was that number you said was the average savings? Was it 20%?
20% is our average.
$20,000 we're talking there? Was that where?
Yeah, 16 to 20,000.
Can I have one question?
Go ahead, Paul.
So we're getting rid of like Lumen and CenturyTel and all of those, so they're all going away, and pretty soon we won't have any convergent. What are the bills going to be?
Well, they can go back. That recovery piece is the 50-50 split. That's the stuff that they use their expertise to find things where we've paid fees we shouldn't have been paying, or we paid for lines that weren't being used, or we paid for services that were supposed to be included by contract, or anything like that. That's where their audit reveals. And those, if we've been doing our job right here at the county, they aren't going to find a lot of those because we've hopefully shaken all those things out through the years. But that does mean that we'll be finding some old bills from Lumen and CenturyTel and Brightspeed and TCC, and have to provide them with something for their audit purposes.
How far back can they go?
Carly?
We can go back into the inception of your current contract.
I didn't.
Inception.
That's a lot of paperwork to pull, Paul.
It's almost, well, we might not have all of that anymore.
Yeah, that might not all exist. So we'll do our level best if the finance committee decides so. But, you know, I'd have to talk to Paul. I don't know what his schedule looks like, but
Paul doesn't have anything to do, of course.
no.
Carly, what's your turnaround time on a project of our size?
Typically about 4 weeks to run the review.
Once you get the information.
Yes, once we get the information, we'll disappear for 4 weeks. That's how long it would take to build the through reports. Summary findings presentation typically takes about 45 minutes, depending on how much we found. And then from there, it's just however long it takes to pick and choose which recommendations you want to move forward with.
I can safely say that if half of this falls in my lap, I would not be able to present the material they need until late June.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question, is it's gonna take us some time, plus their month to do it, so.
Yeah, we've got a lot of material to pull, and we've got a lot of things to check, and to make sure that the items we have in process are denoted as such.
Right.
But yeah, I think late June would be a realistic delivery time. I'd leave it up to Paul to verify what his time schedule would be.
Yeah,
That'd be after the audit anyway.
prior to the budget time so that we could get things included in next year's budget, yeah.
Yes, sir.
The timing is right then. Okay.
So there should be a plus when we end up. It should be. For all your time and all, everybody's time.
Our time is free. Come on, you know that. You're already paying me, you might as well pay me to save you some money.
Did this already pass property?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of like what Convergent did a few years back and got us onto a different program.
Your definition of a few years back is pretty good, Paul.
Well, it was. It's more than a
It's nearly
couple.
20 years.
We haven't had Convergent for
Well, this
20
is
years,
the
I
one
don't
from
think.
2005, according to the paperwork I have.
Convergent?
Yeah.
Oh, and what was it before that? Because we had,
Thought we were talking about this one.
Not my,
Yeah,
not my
and
time,
see-
Paul.
and after the updates with all the phones now with Tim's, Convergent only has a small maintenance plan that goes for just a couple more months.
So just so that I'm clear on this, and we understand what kind of return it, if we say it's 100,000 in a year, and we can go back 5-6 years, you're talking about 500,000, so now you're talking about $100,000 to the bottom line, right? Is that potentially? I mean,
Is this a question for you?
Carly would be, this is her arena, not mine, sorry.
So the 20% is our average monthly reduction moving forward. So anything applied to that 12 times multiplier is where we're seeing that average. Going back in time for recovery, it's 60% chance that we'll find something for you. Just depends on, so for you folks, probably more likely to fall into that 60% since we'd be going back about 5 years. But that's where the 50-50 split applies. So it'd be a little bit different than the example you're thinking of. But yeah, the longer you're been with your provider, longer that contract's been, the more likely you're gonna fall into that 60%. And just a couple examples on what we would find there. Typically with the city, county, or school district, we'd find something like an improper tax tariff or fee application. That's unfortunately pretty common since you should be tax exempt in some ways. But then we'll also look for incomplete order entry, so things that you might have requested the provider to take off the bill 3 years ago and they never did. And then also any improper discounts or promotions that were applied.
yeah, so that leads me to one more question. At what point are your invoices due based on what your findings get?
Standard is 10 days after verification from your provider that the refund's been received or your bills have been reduced.
So once we receive the credit from our, from those companies,
10 days after you were to receive that credit, we would invoice you for 50% of that credit.
and on the 12X, when are those due?
The standard there is also 10 days after verification from your provider. But typically for public sector, if there's, a cash flow issue, if we need to spread it out a little bit, we can work with you absolutely on that. So we could do 30 days after verification. We could do it in 3 monthly installments where a third of it's due at 30 days, second third at 60, third and final portion due at 90 days. So there's a few different ways we can work around that if that's something that you folks would want to do.
So it's a possibility that we would have to pay for those savings prior to us realizing them.
Yes, you'll get verification that the changes have been made and your bills have been reduced, but the fees are due usually within 90 days or less, depending on which way you split it up, if there's, cash flow issues going on.
I'm getting confused on the numbers. Earlier on, you talked about a payment due 10 days, and now you're talking some 90 days. Where did I get lost?
Yeah, sorry, I probably threw too much information out at once. So in our standard agreement, fees are due 10 days after verification from your provider. What I was saying with the other numbers is we can absolutely work with you and make that 10 days longer if need be.
What I'm worried about is, okay, based on their agreement, we may end up having to pay them for their services prior to us getting credit from our vendors.
Correct. But Paul's office frequently has to find ways to put expenses and revenue, match them up and make it go through audit. Wouldn't be the first time that your end of year number awaits revenue from other sources and it would have to be denoted as such. It certainly wouldn't be ideal, but I think we can handle that.
So if the savings in an annual basis is 100,000, they get 50% of that, so you're down to 50.
Two different things.
Is it?
Recovery is monies that's been spent in prior years, so we're getting 50% back of the amounts they determined were improperly charged to us. So that's entirely a windfall. The 12 months advance on ongoing bills, it sounds to me like Carly's saying that if we save $300 a month, we're going to need to have that 12 months up front at $300 a month. And then you wouldn't realize the savings until the bills come in that reduced amount. So there would be a accounting pain from that.
Kind of like the FEMA deal.
Well, as long as that 50% covers that for that time frame, then you're ahead after the year.
Correct.
So now that we have it, is that all clear now? I think I understood it. That's why I was asking the questions. I wanted to make sure everybody was clear on how that.
But I guess still I have a question, how do the, of years, 3 years ago, the companies aren't gonna just say, oh, okay, I see we missed up there. It's not quite that simple.
That's, if it was that simple, we'd do it without Spyglass.
But Spyglass can convince them somehow.
That apparently is their business model. And if they're not very good at it, then we're not going to see any money.
As long as the agreement specifically states we will not have any charges due to Spyglass until we receive the credit from the vendors, then I don't see an issue. But if we're going to have to pay for something within a certain amount of time after they issue their report without getting any money from our vendors, then it's not in our best interest.
Yep,
So
our agreement states that we run the analysis upfront at no cost and that fees are only due after you've received verification from your provider that you've gotten that refund to your account or that your bills have been reduced.
So can you confirm what verification from the provider means?
Sure, so on the recovery side, that means that you've actually received the refund. That will come to you folks first. On the 12 times multiplier side, so any forward looking, you'll get verification from your provider, so they'll tell you, hey, this line has been deleted and your bills have been reduced, or the rate that you negotiated has happened and your bills are reduced in that sense too.
What's the feeling out here? Worth digging into, or?
I mean, it seems like with the exception of some work on Paul's part and a little of Tim's, there could be some savings here. It will be unknown until we get their review, and we don't have to move forward, if I understood you correct, Carly. We can get the review and say, oh my gosh, there's $4 million out here, let's go after it. Or we could get the review and say, yeah, we're gonna save, $2,000. It's not worth the labor to, well, we've already put the labor in at that point, so I don't know.
But correct, to your point, you're in the driver's seat picking and choosing if it's worthwhile.
Hence their value add here, right?
You've spent enough time with the county board now, David, to realize that it doesn't hurt to take a look at what you're doing for the last few years and have somebody digging into it, because it's kind of amazing what you might find. It's not, I'm not saying we're fossils here, but things tend to, they get in a rut. And you sometimes like, wait a minute, why are we doing it this way? And so it's an investment in time that doesn't necessarily, even if we don't save money, it doesn't mean that the effort wasn't worth it.
Right.
Helping us understand our system is, and what we're paying for is not dumb.
I personally think it's worth looking into, as long as we're not committed to anything afterwards other than the time of people digging up stuff.
My questions and my statements should not be an indication of whether I'm for it or not. It's discussion, right? That's what we're doing. I think this is good. This is good. If there's a reveal that we may get out of this whole thing, even if we don't choose to move forward, I think it could be positive for the county.
Yep, that's pretty much where I was going, yep.
I agree.
So the next question is, if,
So we need a resolution for this?
Paul? How do we proceed? Just a,
Well, how do we?
Because you're not expending any money at this
just
point.
just on the record for the minutes that we want to go ahead with the review? Is that,
I think you have that authority to do. It's kind of like personnel gets
We're just
all
telling
the
you
we
add it to your
increases.
workload, is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you're
I think so.
happy with that, of course.
We'll do it. I mean, we'll do what we can. Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't need a resolution, we just need to agree that we want to
I
move
think
forward.
we need a
with the-
motion to vote it on for the minutes. I think.
Motion to move ahead with the Spyglass process to audit our bills for technology vendors and gain consensus at a later date as to whether we move ahead with a resolution for full board.
Right. Okay. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. So,
Carly, will you send the appropriate documentation as to next steps and contractual verbiage for our corp counsel?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get you a recap over here recap email here shortly.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good week coming up.
Go get them, Carly.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Now the ARPA. okay.
Yes. Can I look on it?
You want to look at mine?
Yes.
Next item was discussion of ARPA funds.
Okay, I I didn't bring my own copy, but Dave's got one here, so if you look at your report that I gave you, I've added one extra thing on there because Lori has invested those ARPA funds, and we have gotten to the end of March, $147,220.07 in interest on that money. So,
This was for how long?
uh,
What did she say?
well, it would be year before, it would have been June of '21 when we got the first part, the first half, and then June of '22 we got the second half. So, over time, that's how much money we've earned on that.
So you can say roughly 100,000 a year at this
We
juncture.
probably could.
It's going up though now, it's getting.
And interest is going up, yes. Then the next thing I have on there, I changed the way I had it allocated because we allocated money and then we also, because of the veterans walkers, spent money. So I have an allocated and expended line, which is at 3698.80. And then I've got the allocated portion, which is the Justice Center contingency, furniture and fixtures, and the radio towers, which is 3.9 million. Coming up then with 1.9 million that we have still to allocate. Then down in that bottom part, still the same information as the people that have asked money, which comes to $12 million. $12 million asking to prorate or whatever you want to do with 1.9 million. So that kind of shows that we have a little bit more requests than we have money, like 10 million.
Paul,
We're gonna add that
I thought the
red
radio thing,
line
I thought
to
we
it.
had made a down payment on that.
They haven't spent it yet, though.
They haven't. Okay.
Down payment?
I thought I saw someplace that some of that, or is that what's?
They've ordered this stuff. I don't know if, I don't think we paid anything yet.
Okay, I
I
was
can
under the
check with
impression
Brett, but
that some
if
money
it
went
is,
with-
then that
Yeah,
radio
we-
tower part of it'll go up into that expended.
Yeah.
We did pay part of that.
But what you did was, the 1.5 million was only part of the 2 point something million,
Okay, so
and 500,000 came out of the general fund.
okay.
And you should see that on your general fund line here, yes. So I bet you if they have bought anything, they're taking it out of the 500,000 before they take it out of the 1.5 million.
Okay, yep.
Okay.
I thought we
that's-
paid the
that-
Bacon bill or the parts.
It was Baycon, I remember that, but I think it's coming out of the 500,000 rather than
Yeah,
the
that could be.
1.5 million.
Okay, okay.
Yep, there we go.
At some point, are we gonna remove some requests, or is it just best to leave them?
Well, you can leave all the requests, they could sit there forever.
Well, I guess
You
that's
don't
true.
have to
Yeah,
give
that's
I
them.
was
true.
just gonna say, we could add that red line stuff from the,
But that,
FEMA
maybe
in
then
there.
I should go back through and figure out everything that we've submitted through Integrity, what we've gotten paid, and then put that down in one of the requests down here. And then you guys could allocate it, and if you
Yeah,
do,
that
we
was a-
can,
for
transfer.
integrity.
to me, that was a total rip-off. Maybe we should be suing them or something.
Well, we'd have to sue FEMA.
Well, no, I think we could sue integrity because we basically promised we're gonna get this stuff and then they charged us $90,000 to do it, which they said we were gonna get back and we didn't get that either. Sounds like we're gonna get 12,000 out of the 90 back or whatever.
It just goes to show, though, how you have to really understand those agreements, and the agreement was 5% back on what you got back, not what you
I
submitted.
don't think that was ever explained to us.
Yeah.
That's where the written agreement that we signed is so important.
That was before
I don't know.
your time.
Yeah, so hence the questions on any other vendors like we just had, we need to do our due diligence, but whatever, it is what it is now. I mean, we're slightly ahead, John. It's not like we lost money on it.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate we didn't get as much as we had hoped.
Back, right.
So you're just saying that this interest is just upping the amount of funds that we're having is really,
Yeah, to allocate. because-
As long as we keep that intact and take it out of the general fund, and, right, is that kind of?
Well,
it?
in essence, if you're going to be using the unrefunded FEMA money out of here, I'd have to transfer this money here into the general fund.
Right.
and we don't have to
And that would be, and that would be legal too.
Yeah, because it's under the 10 million.
Yeah.
We have until
We have
next
until
year.
26, I thought.
24 to allocate it.
Okay, 24 to allocate,
And
26 to spend
To
it.
spend it.
So we have another year.
And I had to, that's the other thing I should say, I had to send that report in to the feds. It was due yesterday.
Okay.
I did it last week, so.
So if we get another 100,000 in interest, then we'll be right at $2 million to allocate by the end of 2024.
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
I thought it was mid-year sometime, someplace.
I wanted to say it was probably April. May 1st starts the new reporting, so it might be April. Because we have to report every year now by April 30th, what we've allocated and what we spent.
So about
Starting
by when
now.
then? By-
I'm thinking April of '24. About a year from now.
So just prior to the next new board.
Right after the next.
Right after the next new board. So the next new board gets to decide how we spend it.
Well, it should all be done by then, yeah. So it would be before the next.
So, I mean, maybe our goal should be to have it actually allocated by resolution by then, if it makes sense.
These were all, yep, these were all by,
And by that
County board
time, we
action.
should be pretty well knowing that there is money needed for the Justice Center or there is not.
Well,
we should know that this year, by
Right,
October
yeah.
this year.
Right, should know it by October.
We're gonna know in the next couple months,
Yep.
pretty darn close, what our additional spend is for the remodel
Right.
part.
Yep, right.
And my guess is all of this is gonna go to the remodel, and we're gonna have to spend even more from somewhere,
Yeah, there's,
so.
that's doing the basics, right?
So we'll probably be done with this in about 6 months.
There you go, there you go.
Yeah, that was right.
So,
Well, just a
Okay.
question, That register of deeds thing, is that something that has to be done? Isn't that the way?
She asks me just about every month about if you guys have allocated any more money.
So it doesn't
I
have to be.
thought she was gonna talk about that today.
I'm
Well,
surprised too.
she asked me to meet with her after the meeting, so I assume there's something coming out of that for a question or a
That could be.
request or a,
She's mentioned that before, though, so wasn't there some grant that she was gonna try to get for that? Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be done, does it?
That's my question, I guess, if it had to be done.
I can't answer that one. You could always ask her to come back down for a couple minutes if you want her to.
What was that?
For that register of deeds, for the media conversion and index service. We were wondering if that has to be done.
We don't have a phone down here anymore.
She could call.
See if she can come down
Or she could
really
just-
fast.
Or she could just have her on speaker.
Just answer.
Tell them to bring a piece of candy. Wow. To me, that thing, they should be taking care of first. Stuff that benefits all the taxpayers if we can, you know,
Right.
instead of.
But my question there is, if that has to be done, we have to come up with $233,000 somewhere.
Real fast, real fast.
That's, I couldn't remember what she said, so it'll be good to get that.
Use the restroom quick. I like that when you had this, the one page was totally red.
Oh, there were a lot of them like that.
Oh, you're kidding? No, okay, you just see the fun. Oh, there we go.
No, I can show you lots of red.
Oh, God.
And this one too.
That's why I asked you. You're the,
And they're all.
the feds are sitting there with all this money and they're saying, what should we do with it? Well, take care of
And
what you're
actually,
supposed to.
integrity said those are all legitimate claims. All of a sudden.
They felt they were, yes.
Well, that was good, because, you know, they even
But if she said too that,
sanitizer and all that, you know, stuff we bought for spraying down these rooms, they didn't comment. Bullshit.
That's the only thing we've got left on the set of time to date. So.
Good bit.
well, that was fast.
There she is.
Here I am.
He went to the restroom right now, but he was wondering about this,
I'll be back in a
media
second.
conversion index service thing.
Oh, okay,
So hang on, they've got two in the bathroom.
okay.
Either that or talk really loud.
Just put your nose up against the wall.
Pound on the wall.
Thanks for all that.
We got down here quicker than I could.
No, because we're talking about.
That's
ARPA
okay,
funds.
Dave just went.
That's fine. Could be paid for ARPA funds.
I didn't bring anything down with me, but yeah.
But you were familiar with it anyway.
Yep.
And we haven't done anything on that yet?
We're kind of working on it, when it's slower, we're working on the indexing part of it,
Okay.
but, so that price might go down, because the real estate records are, I don't, do you want me to wait till everybody's here?
Wait, yeah,
Yeah,
wait.
he'll be here in a second.
Did she give word on, yeah, you did, right? On the new state budget that they're proposing for the.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about that too, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there isn't a budget, they don't have a bill number for it yet. We did meet with the Wisconsin Counties Association, we talked about it a little bit. But, yeah, I guess the only concern I have is, you know, that it affects only the sellers. And if they take money away from that, the state, take money away from that from the state, are they gonna try to tax everybody more for something else, some other way? You just don't know what they're up to, what this would, what the domino effect will be.
You don't know if there's another line item in the budget somewhere, but I don't believe that's what is going to happen, because what they said was they're literally going to, the split's not going to be 80-20 anymore. It will eventually be 50-50 over 2 years. It'll go 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. However, the rate is only going to be 20 cents versus 30 cents per thousand.
Per 100.
Per 100, yeah.
Yeah.
So it will be more money, but not as much as we had hoped it would be at the 50-50 split.
Correct. And I think we figured the first couple years maybe won't be much, we won't probably earn much because of that cost reduction. Since we get a bigger split, but the money's less. So we're figuring that first 2 years we might not see an increase, maybe in 2025, 26, something.
You're right. It's not until it's fully implemented will we see a little bit more revenue than what we're getting.
I think what they're having problems with too is the Department of Revenue. They're the ones that have to try to, with the, do the split, and it all has to be done. The program has to be changed, and all of those are cost money to make program changes. So they're hoping that maybe they won't do it in year increments, that they would do it more all up front, so that there aren't so many costs related to the program changes. So those are all things that they're talking about. I'm not on the legislative committee or that, but we're all kind of aware of what's going on.
Yeah. The good thing is it's still on the table because in the governor's budget, it didn't exist.
Right.
So in the legislature's budget, it actually, something exists. So we need to just keep an eye on it.
So you've changed your jobs to know that? What are you doing? What do you do now?
I work with the realtor industry, so.
Oh, you do?
I went down for the Realtor Government Day.
Okay, good.
So it was interesting to.
Well, it's nice that you're on my
come up, I'm
committee.
like, hey, my other part-time job, that was interesting for me to hear that. So the person from the Realtors Association that brought that forward, I went and talked to her. I want more information, and so that's what she was telling me.
Okay, yeah. So we're on to what I'm really down here for. That's that.
Conversation and indexing services.
So what we have is it's split. There's where they'll come in and scan the documents, and those are documents that are only one of a kind, and that's what my concern is. They're certificates, birth, death, marriage, prior to 1907 when the law went into effect. The state has those after that date, and sometimes they don't. But we have all of those records. The ones that are prior to that were the only ones that have those records. And school census records, a lot of genealogists like to look at those type of records, and we even use them to this day. When somebody needs to change their birth certificate, we use those as proofs. So those are the records that we want to scan. And once they're scanned, then it's the data conversion, so that once you scan them in the system, it's to find them again. And you have to put the names in. And that's where the real cost is it's all cursive writing. And it's such fancy writing that we have trouble reading it, that I could imagine somebody else out of our area that's not used to the names would have real difficulty reading those names and entering them. And there's a lot of young folks that can't even read cursive. So right now, what I'm doing when things are slower, if they're, because the real estate is down, we're trying to get all those written in there. It's gonna take years to do that, rather than hire somebody outside, and then we'd have to really go through and proof it anyway. So what we're doing is, as we have time, it's, hit and miss here and there, they're entering those certificates in the data system. And then what we'll do is, it's hard to explain, but on each record, we have to write a number, so that when they do a scan, they enter that number so we can tie it to the data. So it's kind of a process. We did this with with all of our real estate records, so I know what the process is, and the girls do too, so that's what we're doing right now. But yeah, it might not be quite as much as that, but it's one-time records that are, that are important to many people, that do genealogy and that type of thing.
So back, Doc, to the original question, it was,
Right.
this isn't a mandatory program, it
No.
isn't something that the state says we have to get done, but Rose, you and your team would like to get it done as soon as possible, it makes the transactions easier if you need the data, that sort of thing. And your estimate is, if we were to hire somebody to do it, at the time that you submitted this, it would have been $233,000.
Correct.
You've done some since then, so it wouldn't be that much, but you're still talking 200,000
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Good, that's definitely the question I wanted to
Okay.
hear, so.
We're
Yeah,
done?
thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, what's the status of this? Are we waiting till after the jail is done, or is that what we?
Probably.
I told him that you ask me almost every month. Where are they on this ARPA allocation?
The challenge is we have more requests than we have money, and so we're looking at those requests and say which ones would potentially help every county citizen, right? That we could maybe try to squeeze in, but if our Justice Center and the renovations cost us more money than we have, we have to allocate best we can.
Correct. I understand, and with this, it is more of the historic. It's
Yeah.
the historic records. It's not something that anybody's mandating that we do.
What do we do with those records once they're digitized?
We keep them. They're still there. I should have brought one down because they are so, we don't let them look at them because they're so fragile.
Yeah, I don't know, 100-year-old paper, I don't know how much longer they're gonna
We only
last.
get half of it, right?
Yeah. They last forever because they were pretty good about making sure that they use the right ink. With those feather, that's pretty much what they were using. So the writing is pretty easy to, it's bold, you can read it, it's scanned. But we don't let them look at it. We have another book where they can look at the record, the information, but we don't let them touch the record because they are so fragile. They don't like that, but that's all I can say is we can't let everybody
Right.
handle them.
Yeah, but they wouldn't last long.
No.
Correct.
So we're literally gonna keep those records forever.
Yep. Almost 200, well, they're 1800s.
Where are they at?
They're in our office. In the back.
So what happened, we had that leakage through the sewer system, that was a major cleanup there.
Oh, wow, yes. But that was only, well, not only, but it was on our records that we have a backup for. If they would have been on these, they would have been gone. They wouldn't have been anywhere, they would have been gone.
Is your office planning on moving? I
No.
can't remember.
They're staying
You're
right where
staying?
they are.
We're staying there. We're hoping that the water above us is gone, because that's where the problem is. Because a lot of times the water's on my desk, or there's, this
It
flooding.
better be gone.
There's gonna be some empty jail
Fend for it.
cells on the top floor available here in a couple months.
That could be the.
The problem, right?
Childcare.
That's
Oh,
what
you
somebody
said,
said, the
Oh.
daycare center.
They put them right in the
So
cells.
they got a restroom in every room and.
Bathroom in every cell.
Gee, they don't all work.
yeah.
All right,
So,
Okay, so that's it?
that's it.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks a lot, Rose.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
So I think, Dave, I think we're still on hold until we get the money back, the pricing back for the renovation and for the conversation we were having before Rose came down. I think we should plan before April next year, maybe a lot sooner.
right.
Allocate it out to whatever, and if there's no
My
money left,
my
there's no
thought
money
is, as
left.
soon as we know the, quote, final details on
That's what I'm
the,
saying.
on the
So-
center and remodeling,
it, yeah.
as soon as we know that, we see if we have any money, and then we
Yeah.
put some kind of a thing together to allocate it.
And just so everybody's aware, I've heard some discussion amongst some of the departments out there that when Kurt's sitting down with them, they're putting their requests in, again, for more than what's needed. It's, well, I'd really like to have this, so they're putting that in there. Well, that wasn't our request. Our request was the bare bones minimum, what can you get by with? So we may have to make some additional cuts or slashes to, well,
Okay.
can we get by without that when it's all said and done? So unfortunately, I think we might, when the information comes back, we need to be
Yep.
concerned about whether it's really what we need or not.
Last time we had a property committee, it overlooked that.
Well, I'm trying. I'm trying.
You're on, are you on property?
Property, yes.
So, okay, anything else here?
No, but the next meeting will be on the 5th.
June 5th, okay,
The 6th of June?
5th.
5th.
Monday the 5th.
Yeah.
With that, 10:04 adjournment,
Okay.
okay?
Is it 8, are we gonna do the 8:30 again?